Welcome to Behind the Line, the podcast where you'll get untold stories from first responders and military veterans. I'm Tim Hagman. I'll be your host. My guest today is a veteran of the United States military, having served for 20 plus years in the Army. In 1967, he went to Vietnam as part of the 21st Aviation Company as a fixed-wing pilot, where he flew the lightly armed L-19 Bird Dog. While in the military, in addition to Vietnam, he was stationed in Korea and Germany, as well as several bases in the United States. After his retirement, he worked at Hughes Aircraft and other defense industry-related companies. Now that he's fully retired, he serves as a board member for Chapter 53 of the Vietnam Veterans of America and volunteers at several locations, including the Torrance Memorial Medical Center, located in Southern California. Please join me in welcoming Bob Chiota. Bob, welcome to the Behind the Line podcast.
Thank you, sir.
How are you today?
I'm great.
Good. Well, just want to say that we appreciate you taking time to be our guest today and to share your experiences while in the Army and your time in Vietnam. So tell us a little bit about yourself, family, siblings, where you grew up, and your current family.
All right. I'm glad you asked, because I have to first say the big guy upstairs has taken care of me for a long time. Okay. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, in the Italian section of the North End. There was 3 people in our family, or other than my mom and dad, my elder brother and a younger sister. My brother unfortunately passed away at the age of 85, and my sister is still alive. She's 3 years younger than me. I grew up in an Italian, less than rich home. My dad and mom both worked. My dad worked for American Optical Company, the sunglass division, and was unduly taken out of the picture when he refused to support the organization's division of trying to get them, what's the term I want to use? Unionized. That's he refused to do that, and they let him go.
Oh.
Finally, he worked in my uncle's drugstore, or not a drugstore, a you name it, we have it store. It was called a new NU, 5 and 10. Are you impressed? NU. And there was something for everyone. Eventually, he owned that facility, and he spoke perfect Italian. He could understand everybody that came in. He was the only person that could do that. Okay, so my mom worked in the Christopher Columbus High School. She was a cook, not quite, but almost a cook. And everybody who ever went to Christopher Columbus remembered, down the line, boys, you handsome devils. She was just taking the guys to make sure they continued moving quickly. Okay, so and what was not the important stuff about me being in a young kid? I wanted to be the Pope. That was my horizon. I wanted to be the Pope, and so I was surrounded by Franciscans, nuns, and priests, and that was fine with me. And several of my mates at that time left and went to the seminary, as I did. And going to grammar school, we had the nuns to teach us. That was very simple. I was easy walking distance to I could do that. Unfortunately, the seminary, which was a stepping stone to becoming a pope, had to be a priest first. It was in Lowell, Massachusetts. And so I left home and I went to the seminary, and I went then to the novitiate, the next step. And it was there that I realized I wasn't going to be the Pope.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I was not fit to do anything else. I didn't know anything. I was like a fish out of water. I just did not know what to do. Fortunately, my mother, she was connected. And you mentioned that you heard me mention that she was from the North End. So I was able to get to Christopher Columbus High School in a postgraduate course to hone my science skills.
Hmm.
In the seminary, there was no need for science.
Right.
You had to be able to talk in English, Italian, Greek, whatever. But that doesn't help you in the real world.
Yes.
So there's a university nearby, Northeastern University. It was and is still, I checked out on them, a co-op school. Now, a lot of your people don't know what a co-op school is. Perhaps you don't either. A co-op school means you go to school for N amount of time and you work for N amount of time. And their pitch at that time was your school will pay for your tuition. That was great. The first year, everybody had to go through school. You're not co-op. But the second year, after the second year, you had to go into ROTC. Sorry. We had, believe it or not, the largest voluntary Army ROTC in the world.
Wow.
Over 2,000 guys. And we had mostly guys. There was a few women, but mostly guys by a long shot. So I have to tell you an aside story about my ROTC experience. First of all, I was okay in ROTC. School was a little bit more challenging. I changed my majors several times, not helping my 5-year university. It took me 6 years to get out of a 5-year university. Nonetheless, I was good in ROTC, and we did drills mostly. That was the biggest deal. And we had lots and lots and lots of ROTC guys. So in this one Wednesday, it was a Wednesday, I remember those vividly, all the drills. I cut ROTC drill. And the reason I cut is because I was going to the Red Sox baseball game to see my hero, Ted Williams.
Yep.
I didn't know it was going to be his last game, but I had saved up some SNH green stamps. That was the rage those days. And I was able to get 3 tickets. Now, 2 people, Roger Mastoni, unfortunately passed, and my then girlfriend, who was unfortunately passed, that's where my tickets went. But they didn't know where I had parked the car. Nonetheless, Roger said, we're gonna if he hits a home run, we're gonna run on the field and congratulate him. I said, sure. Well, wonderful. And so he did. Ted Williams hit his last ball, a home run at Fenway Park. It was a terrible day. I remember that like it was yesterday. So I ran down. We had beautiful tickets behind the dugout, but not directly behind. So we were one level up. So he hit the home run. I ran down, got on top of the dugout. And when he crossed third base, I jumped on the field to congratulate him. So some cop said, we can kick you out of this game. You can go to the police. I said, okay. And he took me to a little place where they let the press in. And it was a folding chair, and he said, sit there and don't move. Well, I was a kid. I was a college kid. That's all I was. And he said, don't move. He went away. I wasn't a dumb kid. I ran.
You took off.
I'm sorry?
You took off.
Yeah, I took off, exactly. But again, being as naive as I was, there was this policeman right way down, and he was directing traffic. I said, oh, shit, yeah, I'm sorry. They got the cops after me. So I went down there, and I said, hey, any chance of going in there? And I was trying to keep a low key because the people around me were saying things like, "Let the kid alone," he said, we're with your kid, don't worry about it. And I wanted to stay low key. Well, there I was. I had to go back because neither my friend or my girlfriend knew where I was parked. I drove there in my magnificent 48 Dodge.
I was going to ask you, what year was this?
This was in 1960.
So
no, I'm sorry. It was 64, not quite, 61.
Okay,
Yeah.
61. So you had this experience at the Fenway, just a few years as a young kid, college kid, having a good time,
right.
And ran into some trouble. And then
Yes.
what year did you graduate college?
I was 27 when I went to Vietnam.
So 27.
And that was my first. And that was a 1-year assignment there. So I guess I was 28 because I spent a year in Korea. My first assignment.
Oh, you're okay. So what year did you join the Army? What year was that?
1964.
So 64, and then you went. Then you went through training with the Army. And did you
went
always
to the Signal Officer Basic Course?
And then how did you become a pilot?
Okay. Thank you. For your information and for your people listening, in those days, aviation was an additional duty.
Oh.
It wasn't a branch like it is now. So I was neither fish nor fowl, and I'll explain that. But I went Northeastern, ROTC, had their own flight program. And so not only was I a good pilot, a good person in ROTC, but I got to go to school. And all you had to do was complete the curriculum, and you were guaranteed to be an aviator in the Army. So some of my assignments were very short because I was waiting for class to start.
Got it. And then where was your flight training? Where did that take place, and how long did it last?
Fort Rucker, Alabama.
I'm sorry?
Fort Rucker, Alabama.
Okay. And then how long was your flight training?
I don't remember exactly how long it was, but I had a course completion, which automatically got me a chance to get into the Army aviation. But I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, regular Army from Northeastern University. And I was a distinguished military grad. That's because I was good in ROTC, fair in school. So I have to tell you, I mentioned earlier that the big guy upstairs was looking out for me. When I graduated, I had an opportunity, because I was a regular Army officer, to go to jump school or ranger school. And I hate snakes, and they paid you to jump out of airplanes. So that decision was easy. I went to jump school, and that was at Fort Benning, Georgia. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. So you become a pilot. Yep. And then when did you learn that you were going to go to Vietnam? And what was your first, if you remember, what was your first reaction when you found out you got your orders that you were going to Vietnam?
That's what I was going to do. I knew that my classmates, a lot of them were warrant officer candidates. Now, these are the young kids, and that's what they were, who were enlisted men, and they were going to be officers, flying pay in Vietnam, and everybody knew that. Everybody was going to school, to flight school, was going to Vietnam.
So you knew going into flight school, that's where your destination was going to be one day?
Absolutely. No question about it.
And what do you remember what month you went to Vietnam when you arrived?
Well, I have to, again, tell you about the big guy. Everybody went by airplane to get to Vietnam. Not me, not the company that I went with. We took a boat to go. And this is why I'm a little uncomfortable, because it took about 30 days to go from California to Vung Tau. That's where we landed in Vietnam. And that was, as soon as you left California, you were on Vietnam time. So I did not spend my full year there.
Oh, I see.
It was 30 days of that. Plus, when I got to Vietnam, they had to put the airplanes together again because they were broken apart to take them on the ship. So we had nothing to do. Nothing. Zero, zilch. I wasn't trying to avoid anything. I had no airplane to fly.
Right.
Until they put them together. And so, again, the big guy looking out for me. And so I ended up, what am I going to do? In a base camp that had a swimming pool. So we had nothing to do. And I asked the young man that was in charge of the pool, I said, I said to him, what is your job here? He said, I'm lifeguard. I said, I know that, but what's your real job? He said, sir, I'm a lifeguard. And so I said, no, tell me what your MOS is. Military Occupational Specialty. Not that I knew what that was, but he was going to tell me. He said, sir, I am the lifeguard. I'm a lifeguard. And so I thought this guy was, I call him a ground pounder, 11B. That was the MOS, Military Occupation Specialty, 11B. And he had been in Vietnam for a long time, and he was getting rewarded. He took care of the pool, but he wasn't. That was his job. And I always think about, what do you say when someone asks you, what did you do in the war, Daddy? And he has to say, I think. I was the lifeguard at the Officers Club pool.
Rough duty.
Rough duty.
Rough
exactly.
duty.
But I'm not sure that that's the case. And I don't want to belittle anybody that went there.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. So that was my first assignment. I mean, I wasn't doing anything there in Nam. And when I got to fly, the Air Force were also flying bird dogs, these little observation airplanes. And we would do mortar watch. We would do convoy cover. That was the main thing when the Air Force was with us, was convoy cover. And what we were doing was flying over the top of vehicles going to or from Vietnam, trucks with rations and stuff like that. But I mentioned that we in the Air Force, there's always a negative thing about those. They beat us all the time. I have to say that. They beat us all the time. And I didn't realize that they were jet jocks.
Oh,
waiting for their birds to get ready.
They were doing something in the meantime.
Yeah, right. They'd like to beat us up.
Oh, well, let me ask you. So,
Sure.
I've talked to a lot of people that have been to Vietnam when they arrived, and they talk about when but you're the first person that I've talked to, I think I've even read about, who went to Vietnam by boat. Most everybody I've talked to, I've read about, it's by airplane. And almost everyone that I've interviewed or just had a casual conversation with, they describe what it was like when they stepped off the plane. Now it varies on the time during what time of year it was at the time, but just the heat and the humidity and the odor and just all the senses were hit. What was it like for you arriving by a ship when you arrived in Vietnam? What was your reaction when you stepped off? What was it like for you?
Well, I have to tell you, when I got to Vung Tau, I wasn't sure if I was facing the enemy or what. I did not know, honest to God. And I should have. I was an old timer then, but I didn't know. And so when I just peeked over the top so that I could barely see the country, I was afraid the enemy was there, but I didn't realize it was the R&R Center in country.
Oh.
And so, but I know the smells that you were referring to. We did smell the country, but then once we arrived and got there, we were trucked to our destination. And so my first assignment in Vietnam, was Vung Tau, and then to Tay Ninh. That's where we were taken, Tay Ninh. And Tay Ninh was where we had a runway. The bird dogs were going to fly there, but our houses weren't ready. So we had to do an officer. I don't want to be like that about an officer, but we built our own tents. It was a half tent, and we built up there. Okay, so I flew my convoy covers, and then I flew night mortar watch. I flew to a base camp, and little did I know I was there at the 25th Infantry, the 1st Division. And I was a pilot, and we had a crew there to make sure that our aircraft always was good at night. And we had a guy, an observer, would fly. If you remember, now a bird dog is a two-place aircraft, a pilot and an observer. The observer, he was from the unit, wasn't a pilot. He was an observer. Oh. And his job was to fly with me, and he would be looking at the ground on a mortar watch. A mortar would fly at us or to the ground, and he would know, because that was his business, where it came from, and then he would tell me, and I would send that out, and they would return fire almost immediately.
Oh, interesting.
And because he knew it. Well, it never happened. Never. I'll say it again. Never happened. This is the big guy again taking care of me. Okay, so that was my job, and that was the job for a long time while I was flying.
So so you were doing the convoys and the mortar watch, and was that specifically the responsibility to have the bird dog there, or did they do other things as well? Were there other missions that you took part in, or other pilots did?
Yep. Thank you for asking that question. Yes, we were flying every day. We were flying the max amount of combat time you can. We went to checking it out. We flew every single day. However, there were so many of us that we had a day off. And so one of these days that I had a day off, I was walking around, didn't know what the hell to do. So I'm at the flight line, and some major, I was still a captain at that time, I think, a major, one rank above, he came running to my company commander, and he said, "Do you have anybody free? My guys Rangers are in contact right now, but they're running out of ammo. And I know where they are, but I need someone to take me there." So the guy looked at me. I said, "Well, of course I'll go." And so I flew, and the guy had 2 boxes of hand grenades that he wanted me to deliver to these guys. I don't know. I have to tell you about this bird dog. It has 2 struts. A strut holds on the wing. And so nobody in the back, everybody wanted to bring a weapon. Nobody in my aircraft had any kind of a weapon. Here I am with 2 cases of hand grenades. So we flew over the compound. He opened the window, threw out a case, and fine. He says, "I still have another case." I said, "Okay." So we did a round. We went right around, did it again. And that's the worst thing you can do, is go back over a target, because they're waiting for you.
Right.
Okay. So he threw the next batch out. And now he says, "Oh, you're taking fire. Get out of here." So a bird dog doesn't have a lot of speed or any maneuverability. So I was doing the best I could. We get out of there, and we went back, and I landed, and no more problems. So I landed and looked at the aircraft. Not a single target, not a single weapon hit me, nothing. And so, again, the big guy's looking out for me. So, by the way, this major put us in for the highest ranking thing you can give to an aviator, and that is the Distinguished Flying Cross. We didn't get that. I know he wanted to get it because bravado.
Yes.
I didn't care what the hell I did. And so we received, in fact, the Air Medal with V for Valor.
Got it. And, well, what you did, obviously you did what you had to do, but that's very heroic to go in there. My question, though, on that, and I think part of it is, you in Vietnam with all the jungle and all the trees and, flying over those, and the bird dog, you just said it was one of my questions, but doesn't have a lot of maneuverability, number one, not a lot of speed. So with that in mind, what was your max speed, or what did you typically fly at the speed, and what was your altitude typically?
The joke of the speed is about 60 miles an hour. It took off at 60, it flew at 60, it landed at 60. I don't remember anymore, to be very honest with you, but that was the joke. You asked another question.
What was the typical altitude like with this gentleman, this officer? How low were you?
High. I mean, nobody shot at me because the world said, and I don't know if this is true, and I can tell you that the results were true. Nobody shot at a bird dog because they knew we had communications with everybody in the world, all the guns, every onshore and offshore. And so they wouldn't shoot at us, because what was the value of shooting at a little bitty bird dog with one person flying when the world was going to erupt around them in 10 minutes?
Yes.
Because of my contacts. So I wasn't worth it. And if they shot at me, I didn't know it. I'm telling you, I had it made, and I'm going to be the first to say it. I had it made. I flew at 50,000 feet or 5,000 feet or higher all the time.
Got it.
There was no reason for me to be any lower.
Were there, when you mentioned that there was no need for them to shoot at a bird dog, but were bird dogs ever shot down, or did they have mechanical failures and crash, any of them that you know about?
I don't remember if any aircraft was ever shot at. I don't remember that. As far as I know, nobody flew. But there were a lot of bird dogs in country. I mean, there were companies of bird dogs. Some were broken up, like mine was afterwards. But after a while. But I have to tell you a story, if I may.
Of course, of course.
This is I was an aviator, but not a great pilot. I'll be the first to admit that. And so my instructor in ROTC, in both ROTC and a real flight school, Army flight school, didn't have any time to teach me how to fly aerobics. However, the bird dogs are not built to do aerobatics. They just are not built. Nonetheless, one time when I finished my duty for the day, went back to the hooch. That's what we call a place where we stayed. And the guys came in, and they were talking. And the guy said, "What did you do today?" I said, "Oh, I did a loop." I said, "You're not supposed to do that." That's especially because our aircraft had munitions on them, generally white phosphorus, because we were target people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you had HE, and that was heat. That was the bombs, real bombs.
Oh.
But so the guys, he described what he did. He said, "Well, you go to high altitude and push the power down, and you fly over, and you can see over the top of a bird dog. It's wide. It's a canopy." And he said, "Did you look at the canopy, or did you look out to the right?" And the guy said, "Oh, no, I looked out to the right, and you're supposed to watch the horizon turn over. Okay. And then you can pull your power off and just do your loop, and that's it." So I said, "I can do that." So the next day I went flying, and my observer got in. I said, Tony was a nice Italian guy from Somerville, Mass, near where I grew up. And I said, Tony, put on your harness, because he never did. And so he did. And so I went to high altitude. I went to 10,000 feet, and I put all the power I could and turned around. And he said, what the expletive was that? And I said, it was a loop. My knees were shaking because I was so frightened myself that I did this loop.
But you made it, right?
I did. But again, the big guy took care of me.
Did Tony say, I'm done, I'm not going to ride with you again? Or did
No, he was stuck.
Oh yeah. So that was a question I had. So you say he was stuck, but the observer, it's always nice to have a partnership that you trust the person, you have a good rapport with the person, you communicate well with the person. Did you typically have the same observer, or do they rotate?
No, they rotated. I get Tony occasionally was the same guy.
Got it. So you got to know several of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, you made the loop and you didn't get in trouble for it. So that's a good thing. All went well. And the big guy upstairs was looking out for you. So
that's right.
As you said. So you were in country. I know you said the 30 days transport over there, and then the time it took to build the planes, kind of towards your time in Vietnam. Obviously, you spent close to a year in Vietnam and flying for that amount of time. Do you know how many missions you flew on, or any idea?
Lots of missions. I don't know how many there were, but there was lots.
Well, I know you said they were flying every day.
That was when I was in Tay Ninh.
Okay.
Now, the guy that took us over, who was a major, his eyes were going bad. He was an older person as well, and so he got assigned to Cu Chi, Cuchi. Unbeknownst to us, that's where the bad guys were. They were living below us. We found out that way too late. Anyway, so he went to headquarters, and I said, well, what am I going to do here? So I went to Cu Chi as well, and found out that I was a fixed wing only aviator. I mean, I flew airplanes, not helicopters, in a helicopter only battalion.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting.
So I went from max flying, the longest flights you can have, the most times, to waiting to fly a bird dog for pay. Otherwise, I couldn't get flight pay.
Oh, interesting.
So I flew a desk for most of my time at Cu Chi. And so I went from Tay Ninh. By the way, it was near a mountain, Nui Ba Den, the Dragon Mountain. Interesting. To this Cu Chi. And I just flew a desk. And so, again, the big guy's looking out for me.
How long were you there? How long did you fly that desk?
Well, the rest of my tour, I don't know how long that was. It was probably 3 months, 4 months, something like that. The rest of my tour. And so I went home by myself. I mean, I went by, they were doing infusions. They couldn't send everybody home at the same time because that would leave them bare. So when my year came up, I left.
And so you did your 12 months and you were back home in the United States.
Right. And then I started my other career, my real career. I was a signal officer by trade. And so I was assigned my first assignment back, I was at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, as a signal officer. I wasn't an aviator, although we had a very close relationship with Lakehurst, New Jersey, because we were the Army flight test activity. So every aircraft, it didn't matter what branch it was, had to come through us and to make sure that everything was copacetic before they left.
Real quick, just going back to when you were in Vietnam. Obviously, so much happened there. And did you personally witness or experience any horrific events or see or hear about any of those while you were in country?
No. There was an aircraft that went down. It was not a bird dog. It was the two iterations above a bird dog. I think it was not a beaver, but another aircraft, and it went down. And I did not mention because I just forgot. Whenever an accident happens or whatever, a bird dog is in charge.
Oh,
it can be anything. A bird dog can, because it can stay on station a long time. Helicopter generally cannot stay the same. So a bird dog is in charge. So I was on a just a regular run, not a mission, and a guy from my company was getting a paycheck, and so he had some problems with pay, and so he rode in my aircraft, and I flew him back to Tay Ninh. Well, this I didn't even think about talking with you about it because it's a detail, but nonetheless, over the earphones, the guy in the back can talk to you, and so we heard Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Oh my God, things the world was falling apart, and this was somebody away from us. They were flying at Vung Tau, and we could not get there fast enough to be on charge. So we listened to it, but we listened to it very intently. And there was a guy who went down. They had an oil failure, whatever it was, and so they were waiting for a gunship to roll around and keep back the enemy before they went in and grabbed these guys. Well, you may or may not know that the Aussies were very instrumental in helping us out. They were in Vung Tau. They flew all kinds of aircraft, usually helicopters, and not fixed wing, I don't believe, but maybe they did. And so this guy is waiting for a gunship to roll in. Well, somebody from the Vung Tau, one of the guys there, said, "This is Wallaby 885" in their Australian accent. We have the crew aboard. We're taking fire easterly, whatever. And so now I was very happy that anybody who's shot down can get the world around them, because you heard, guys, this is so-and-so on the open net. This was the aircraft controllers. I have a flight of 2 F-105s. Can you use them? Of course, we could use them, but not in this instance. And so when I got back to the compound, I told our flight officers that don't be afraid of doing anything, because if you're in any, they're never going to be in harm's way really bad. You're going to be around. Someone who will find you and recover with you. So I was a happy camper.
Yeah, you have a lot of support there. Somebody goes down in need of help. There's people right around the corner, hopefully, to get there quickly.
Exactly.
Okay, so I wanted to, real quick, because I meant to ask this and I failed to. I apologize. Going back to when you were with the officer who was dropping the 2 crates of the hand grenades, and he said, "We're taking fire." What was that like for you to be knowing that somebody down below, although you learned once you landed, nobody hit your plane, you did know that at the time, what was going through your mind as you were flying, knowing that people were shooting at you?
It was my job. Whatever I was so naive. I didn't even think about that. I just did what I was supposed to do.
And so once you landed and you
Yeah.
realized the plane was not hit,
Right.
but oftentimes when something happens, a critical incident, horrific incident, and you're just doing your job, just what you said, and that's, people push forward, they're focused. Oftentimes afterward, they think about what could have happened. And that's when they go, oh, they start wondering, they may get scared after the fact. Did that happen to you at all? Or do you just kind of roll with the punches and keep going?
Yeah. That's the way it was.
That's okay.
I don't know of anybody that shirked their duty. Never, never.
Wow, that's awesome. That's incredible. Okay, well, good. So let me ask. So you come home. Did you fly home, or did you take a ship back to the United States
No,
from
we
Vietnam?
flew home.
You flew home, and you say you
Freedom
flew
Bird.
by. Oh, okay, the Freedom Bird. That's right. So what was it like? Because you hear a lot of stories, or you've read about them, or you've watched them. The protesters, what they've said to people, the soldiers coming back. Did you experience that yourself at all, or no?
No. And that's unfortunately what bothers me. I hear so much about that, and it never happened to me. And so I really can't feel for them. I just it never happened to me.
Mm.
It's like in my assignments that my Vietnam vets that I go to our meetings. I I can't relate to them because many of the guys were ground pounders.
Right.
11B was their MOS, 11 Bravo, and they were on the ground, having to worry about bungee stakes and snakes and stuff like that. And I didn't have that at all. The big guy was looking out for me, just took me. I was an officer, and I have what has been dubbed, I don't know if it's true, as survivor's remorse.
I've heard about that quite a bit.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. So with that in mind, and what you did while in Vietnam, and you say you came back and you didn't. Thank goodness you didn't experience what many did with the reception, the way it was done. Did you experience anything afterwards? So many soldiers and Marines and airmen, as we all know, who were involved in, specifically speaking about Vietnam now, the PTSD and just a difficult time to adjust, and just some really, the bad memories of what they witnessed and saw and were involved in. Did you adjust fine, or did you ever have any issues adjusting once you got back?
I was fine. My wife said one time that somebody, I am very proud of my Army, and I wear a cap that is everybody recognizes it as a soldier. And so I forget where we were walking someplace, and she heard something that I didn't. And it was a person saying, "Did you kill any babies today?" She tells me. I said, I never heard that. And she said, "Get your mind out of that. He's a soldier." I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
But that's all. That never had anybody. This is not. I didn't exactly answer your question because we were already home by then. I was already married by then.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you didn't experience that. You didn't have to experience that, because so many did. And
I know.
It's horrible what people would do and say to other people for just doing, serving the country. And yeah, it's awful. So when you came back from Vietnam, and you ultimately went and worked for Hughes. Switching gears here, you went to work for Hughes.
No,
And I'm sorry.
I'm still in the Army when I left.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I meant to say when you got back, you're still in the Army, and you did you're talking about your profession then. But when you got out of the Army, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
you went to work for Hughes. What did you do for Hughes Aircraft?
I have to tell you that I came across San Diego on an assignment while I was still in the Army. We were building a new program called Standoff Target Acquisition, SOTAS. And then that fell apart. It's a long, long story. I won't bother you with that. So you were asking what I did in Hughes. They thought that they were getting someone who was in the know. I was a lieutenant colonel by then, and they thought they were getting a wonderful person. They needed an Army guy because the marketing people had every branch covered except Army. And so I fit in perfectly there. As an aside, if I may, I was cut from Cubic Corporation. They were a defense industry as well, but very diversified in everything. CUBIC, Cubic. And the joke was, see you bastards in court. Because if you had a solicitation that went and you did not award to Cubic, they would joke was that they would take it at court.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so I was marketing there before I ended up with Hughes, and the reason I got laid off there, but by then we had formed a Hughes Cubic Communications Company, and the guy who was my counterpart marketing guy was from Northeastern University years and years and years prior to me, but insisted that I go to Hughes. And I said, of course, thank you. And make sure you get paid this amount of money, which I was so naive. Cubic said that they pay based on your retirement pay. When I went to Hughes, I didn't want to hear that. So I could tell that they had a relationship with me. And I was very happy about that. I said, please don't tell me that you're going to take my retirement pay into consideration when you set my salary. And the guy went crazy. He said, oh, baloney. Yeah, I will go. And he said, that's your money. You worked for the Army 24 hours a day for over 20 years. That's your money. We pay you by what you do for us. I could have done anything for this guy. I mean, he was just awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that is awesome.
So I was a marketing guy. To answer your question, I was a marketing guy.
Okay.
I did little marketing because he was the best marketer that we ever had.
Wow.
But I stayed there for 14 years.
Wow. So you did over
from
you
Hughes.
did your 20 plus years in the Army, and then 14 years. So you had quite the career.
I did. And then I was in Hughes. When I retired from Hughes, I was a subordinate to Northrop Grumman. They were our prime, and I was the sub as a marketing guy. And so I went to Northrop Grumman afterwards, and I was now the prime, doing the same job I was doing before. And so I'm telling you, the big guy has been looking out for me. When I retired, you have to be, when you're a defense contractor or whatever, you're always something, and so let's say Hughes for your MOS, for your what's the name of the thing? Yeah. Anyway, so I said, I'm retired now. I don't have to pay attention to Hughes or Northrop Grumman or anything like that. So my handle is Quad Dipper. everybody knows what a double dipper is.
You're right. That's right.
Okay. I was a quad dipper.
Wow.
And so it was good and bad when I did. Okay. So I think I'm taking a lot of your time. So
no, this is great. No, this is perfect. This is perfect. Don't feel that way at all. You know, but I a couple of things. So, and then we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. But before, so I know you did 20 years in the Army, and we spoke specifically about the ROTC, but more so about your time in Vietnam. But also you were involved, you know, you went to various countries, you were in a number of states. I know you were in Germany and Korea. What did you do in Korea?
Korea, I was a signal officer. I wasn't in flight school yet. So I started off, if you can believe this, in a signal battalion. That's a lot of men. I was a regular Army officer, and there was this hill that we went to, 754, and my battalion, I think it was the XO, he said, "What would you like to do?" Well, I was a regular Army officer. I expected to be a platoon leader. You know, I'm a leader of men.
Right.
And the guy said, I have a job for you. It's called a post signal officer. And I said, what does he do? He said, well, he doesn't go to the field. Well, sign me up, coach.
You'll take that for sure.
Roger that.
Oh, yes.
So I went to Hill 754. There's 8 guys on there, and they had flunked their IG inspection. IG, their forgot what the IG stood for. Anyway, it was a big deal, and they had a reinspection coming up. So it was my job to make sure these guys were ready for the IG return. And you only could get to Hill 754 by helicopter or by truck. It was a terrible vehicle, terrible location. Anyway, so this is in Korea. I was a signal officer. I didn't know, I wasn't waiting. I was waiting at that time to go to flight school. So I went up, and it was near New Year's. I remember that. And so I asked the guy, could I come down and enjoy them? There's going to be a party down there. He says, you can come down if you wish, but you better pass that IG. And so I said, roger that, and stayed there. And I'm sorry, the 8 guys were all had been there a long time. Their girlfriends in Korea. And they said, can you let us have the night off? I said, I can't give you that.
Right.
So I went to bed early.
Oh,
very early.
you led by example. Well, let me ask you. So did they end up passing, or did they not pass?
We passed.
Oh, see, they probably credit to you, I'm sure.
Well, no, I really can't take that. We had people that had to walk up the hill because the day of the thing it snowed like the devil. And so they couldn't have anybody. And the mess hall guy, there was 8 of us. There was a teeny little mess hall. He couldn't even walk up the hill.
Oh.
So the guy who was in charge of the munitions took care of the mess hall. And we passed, and the guy said, let me see your weapons. Well, I had a 45, and there was 8 guys with regular guns. M1s, I think, at that time. And he said, you let me walk up that hill for this? He said, Sarge, it wasn't me doing that. You wanted to come back and see us. So I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. They passed. That's what matters. So let's now jump after all that. And then we'll wrap up here. But I mentioned in your introduction that you do volunteer work at Torrance Memorial Medical Center in Torrance, which is in the South Bay, Southern California. What type of work and volunteer work do you do there, or did you do there?
I still do.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
I'm a wayfinder. It sounds a little weird, but that's what we do. We help people. Their visitors are coming in almost always, and they don't know how to walk around the hospital. And so I know that now, and I help them, and I tell them always, we're not trying to get you. This is the truth. We're not trying to kick you out of the hospital quickly. We just don't want you to get lost.
Right.
And that's what I tell them. And so that's my job. I'm a wayfinder.
And how long have you been doing that?
It's almost 15 years, I think.
Good for you to do the volunteer work and help people out. It's
nothing. It's a nothing job. I swear to God. I volunteer at the South Bay Village. This is a nonprofit geared to keeping people in their family, in their home. They're not trying to get anybody in another place. And the way it works is there's members, those people who pay to get there, to get the opportunities, and volunteers. And when a person needs to go to a doctor and they can't drive, they need help. And so they go to our person that's in charge and says, I need some support. And you're there. We do, and it's free. I mean, we don't pay, they don't pay us. We're volunteers, and we can drive them. Doesn't matter where they want to go.
Oh, it's very nice.
It's nothing.
But it's very, you say that very humbly, but for them, it means a lot, I'm sure. It's very, very nice of you to do that and been doing this volunteer work for so long. You're, as I mentioned, you are a member of the Chapter 53 of the Vietnam Veterans of America in Southern California, in the South Bay, here in California. Do you find it comforting and to have a bond with other people who also served in Vietnam, to meet with them, to converse with them, socialize with them? Do you find that comforting?
I wouldn't say comforting, although we do get along. I mean, that's but I like to stir the pot. So that's really it. I do have to tell you something that I did not mention, and that is when I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, as a signal officer, not as an aviator, I ran into a problem, and one of the men in our unit wrote a note to me saying that if I don't stop harassing one of his friends, I was a captain. Maybe I was a captain, and I had non-judicial punishment ability. So he wrote a note in pencil and left it on my chair. Went home for the night, or did whatever I was going to do. And the note said, if you don't stop harassing, or I don't remember exactly the words, this friend of mine, I'm going to kill your wife and your newborn baby.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know what to do. I had never experienced this before. And so I called my battalion XO. I said, what do I do? He says, call the MPs, which I did. Tell your wife to leave and go someplace else. The first time, and not joking now, is the last time she ever did something without asking, what do you mean? What do you want to do? Why should I be doing that? She left. And the MPs came to me. Do you know where the guy is now? I said, I looked at my list where he should be. I said, he should be at this place. And they went to him and they found another note. Fortunately, a little stupid, but happy about that. And so they sent him to, he was committed to Leavenworth.
Oh, Fort Leavenworth, yes.
Fort Leavenworth, that's right, for the long course. That's what everybody says, the long course, because that was also a place where you were going to go to general staff position. There was an assignment there. But the long course was they went to the jail.
Wow.
And so
okay.
Everybody wanted me to talk to you about that.
It's very interesting, and your wife asked,
gone.
Oh, yeah. Your wife asked no questions. She just she did what she had to do. Yes,
she did it the first time, and the last time. We've been married for 55 years.
Oh, good for you two. That's awesome. Good for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. We're going to be 56 in very short order.
Oh, okay. Well, I have something to strive for here, you know?
Yep.
Well, you know, I want to say that you and I mentioned this early on, we'd exchanged emails, a couple emails early on. And in that email, you said this, and then you've said it multiple times today, so it's rings true. You've said, and an email said, the big guy upstairs has taken great care of me all my life.
That's right.
And obviously, you know, considering all that you've done in your life, all that you've experienced, I mean, I couldn't agree more. You are a very fortunate person. And before we are going to wrap up, before we do, is there anything you'd like to end with by saying anything? If not, no pressure, no big deal. But if you do, you know, now's your time.
Okay, thank you. I said to you, and I want to make sure you understand that I do have some high respect for the big guy, and I don't know if I should, but I know my family understands that I have two daughters. I have no grandsons. I have two grandsons, but no sons. My brother had 5 daughters, and I just saw that the Chiotas are not going to have any more kids. So that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and this is really, I really am happy about this because my chapter, which I really love, chapter 53, every time we have a meeting, we go around the room just in case somebody is new, and we tell them what we did in the war. We're just like that.
Wow.
And I can't tell my story because I was there for 20 years. Vietnam was only a part of my life. I was in the Army for 20 years, and I can't tell everybody in that small time that we have. So I appreciate the opportunity to bare my soul.
Oh, gosh. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're very welcome. Hey, so real quick, Bob, on behalf of the Behind the Line podcast community, as well as our grateful nation, your dedication to service is very much appreciated. And I just want to say thank you, sir, and welcome home.